when you are a founder-led CEO, founder-led organization, and this has been something, this is 30 years for you, man, right? Your circle as a chairman and CEO gets smaller and smaller in terms of the number of people that you can really just be fully transparent, fully open, question, look for advice, look for counsel, share crazy ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed to be in the position where you and I get to work together.
Cool. Welcome to the Richie Huffman Podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship, wealth creation, and getting the results that you've been looking for. Where we believe that hard work works. So let's get started. Hey guys, today we spoke with Chris Steer, one of my coaches and mentors for a long time. Chris has actually helped and has been a huge part in helping grow the Huffman family brands. Today we spoke about what holds most organizations back is something that we call the trust factor. Also, what holds back an organization from growing and scaling to its true potential. You can find Chris at Steer LLC on LinkedIn. Hope you guys enjoy our podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Richie Huffman Podcast. I am here today with Chris Steer from Steer LLC. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Richie. Great to be here with you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I know you hear this from me quite often, but I just have to hit you with this right up front. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for us. Not only have you become a huge friend of mine, but a mentor, a coach, and a brother, so many other things. So I say it quite often because you've made a huge impact, not only in my life personally, but to this company. Yeah. So thank you for that.
That means everything to me, Richie. There's a phrase that you and I use often together, which is iron sharpening iron.
Yes.
And I feel that is absolutely true in our relationship. Yeah. The way in which you have modeled the way for the growth of the Huffman family brands, I continue to learn from you week after week, and I think that's part of the reason why our relationship is so special, is because we keep each other in a learning mindset, in a learning mode. And one of the great takeaways that I have from your leadership is that you continue to model intellectual humility, right? You are the one who is always telling, like, you'll send me things over the weekend about something you've read or something that you've learned, or you've worked with other individuals who have led successful businesses. You're never done learning. And I think that is not only part of why you and I get along so well, but I think it also speaks to why HFB, the Huffman family brands, has become what it is today.
And those were, it's so funny you said that, because I wrote that down in preparing for today, because I think that relationship, to be honest with you, is very hard to find.
It is.
Like I wrote down, like, I'm not sure if you bring out the best of me or I bring out the best of you, but I think we bring out the best of each other.
No question.
And that's very, very unique.
Yeah, it is unique.
So thank you for that. And that's why I start with the kind words.
I appreciate it, man. It means everything to me and to our team as well. But I think part of it is the fact that, Richie, when you are a founder-led CEO, founder-led organization, and this has been something, this is 30 years for you, man, right? Your circle as a chairman and CEO gets smaller and smaller in terms of the number of people that you can really just be fully transparent, fully open, question, look for advice, look for counsel, share crazy ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed to be in the position where you and I get to work together.
Cool. Now we've gotten that out of the way.
Man.
That sounds like the ending.
That's right. That's right. And that's a wrap.
But I wanted to get that out in the forefront
Yeah.
of just telling you how much I appreciate
Thank you, man.
everything about you. So Steer LLC. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about the background, how you got started, and really, how did you find yourself here today?
Thanks for that. It's a fun journey, and I think that's part of the reason why. There's an old quote from Picasso. He says, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away."
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like in my 30-year professional journey, I'm now in this place where I get to give it away. Arthur Brooks talks about crystallized intelligence. And I have been, Richie, this started, like Steer LLC, honestly probably started 32 years ago when I was the captain of the Johns Hopkins lacrosse team. And it was a great team that was supposed to win the championship and didn't.
Okay.
And that was the first lesson for me about what does effective leadership look like? Why do great teams not finish the job? The whole dynamic of performance. Fast forward into my career as an attorney advising leaders, as an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur operating businesses, and then as an advisor and a consultant for the last 12, 13 years, being able to take all of that perspective, all of that, my own empirical data from working with probably 500 organizations at this point.
Yeah.
And then that is why we created Steer, to bring that crystallized perspective, not only from our own experience, but from the experience of successful, sustainably growing leaders and companies. And then when you look beyond, you peel the layers back, and you see that there's psychology and neuroscience behind that. You see that there are tendencies and through lines, many of which you have developed.
Yep.
Right? And so that's what we want to bring to organizations, small, mid-market organizations, about how can you be the best? How can you sustainably grow and perform as leaders, as managers, as families, and in some cases as boards. So thank you for giving me that for giving some air to that, because it's a fun story to tell.
So let's try to unpack that if we can. So in all that experience, starting with being a captain and playing for John Hopkins, what have you learned with all that experience?
I think it starts with two things. The first I referenced already, which is permanent beta. Like, you're never done learning. In fact, I feel so strongly about it, Richie. You know this story, but I created our brand and our logo around this fusion of the infinity symbol and the beta symbol, because it means that you're never done learning and growing. If you're done learning, you're done.
Totally agree.
And you model that.
Totally.
I've seen that from you since the first day we met. That's number one. I would say the second thing that I've pulled through that experience is the fact that it is all about how you respond. It is not the event itself, right? And so the great leaders, the great organizations, it's all about how you lean in to your response rather than fretting and worrying about, the event itself. How am I going to respond to this? I'm going to turn this into an opportunity. I'm going to turn this into an opportunity for growth, my own or the organization. So I would say responding, the power of response, and I would say never done learning. And when I look across the high-performing organizations of the last 30 years, of which HFB is right at the top of the list, they have those characteristics, right? We don't just accept our fate. We respond in a way that we're going to learn and make it better.
Right. So as you're talking, I totally agree with you. So what makes the difference? Like, what makes the difference of those? I think when you talk about being a lifetime learner, you only become a lifetime learner if you have a philosophy of I know nothing, right? So it has to start with just the ability to want to be a lifetime learner versus someone that believes that they have all the answers and know everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've come across those people also.
Absolutely. And you said that very well. And I couldn't say that better in terms of there is ancient and timeless wisdom, okay? Whether it's faith traditions, whether it's philosophical wisdom traditions of the last 3,500 years, they all speak to this, which is if you think you already know it, you can't learn anything, right? It's impossible to learn if you think you already know it. And when you run into that kind of leadership, I have very little confidence in the organization's ability to sustainably grow.
Right.
And so what you just captured there, Richie, and very succinctly and well stated, is what the greatest minds have been saying for thousands of years.
I know that because I have a couple of those people that I know.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult, and you can actually see it. You can see that I'm trying to pour into this person. and I'm trying to educate them, I'm trying to help them, and that's one of the most frustrating things that happen to somebody is that they're so unwilling
That's right.
to even take it in and be willing to listen to your opinion or your advice. Doesn't mean you need to take it.
Right.
Just having the ability to listen.
No question. And I think that's one of the limiting factors that's so frustrating to effective, high-performing CEOs is when you see talent in someone that they might not see in themselves, and you're trying to pull them there and get them there, and they're not willing to take the leap.
Got it.
Right? They're holding onto that one branch too tight to reach for the next one. And that is a limiting characteristic that it's frustrating because you know what they could be and they don't see it for themselves. And the tough thing for a chief executive and for the great team that you've put in place is the fact that then they need to make hard decisions about people, about their willingness to grow and develop, right? Because you only want to be surrounded by that people that, as you said, have that learning philosophy.
Yeah. Can that be taught, do you think?
It can be taught. Some people have it intrinsically. One of the members of our team is a performance psychologist, and we talk about this often. And for certain people, it is innate. They just were born with that ability, right? Like I'm never going to be complacent. I always want to compete. I always want to win. I always want to grow and be and develop, like a Richie Huffman, for example, right?
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. So that's where that hunger for learning more comes from, the desire to be better.
100%.
Okay.
And for some people, that's intrinsic, right? For others, it's almost like it's an awareness that gets developed later in life. It's like one of those aha moments where it's like, well, wait a minute. I have been looking through the wrong lens my entire professional journey here. And now I can finally be self-aware about who I am versus who I could be. And then they start to have this appetite for learning. And so it can be taught, but I'm telling you, back to our original point, if you are not in this posture of humility, right, to be able to be taught and to be learned or to be wrong, then you're not going to close that gap, right? So it can be taught, but I tell you what, it's such a difference when it's intrinsically there, when it's already there.
Yeah, that's makes it easier.
It does.
Right?
It does. And you can accelerate the growth of the organization and the development of people when you've got that people are just like kicking your door down saying, Richie, how can I be better? How can I be better?
So how have we taken advantage of that here? How have you helped our organization bring that alive inside of HFB?
Well, credit first where credit is due. And I've been on record as saying this several times to members of the organization and to your executive leadership team, which is I walked into this organization several years ago, and the first thing that I was struck by is the foundation that you have for growth. And that is this. You have a clear purpose. You have a clear vision. You have a clear mission, right? You've got clear values, and you measure what matters. I walked into that, and that was well developed. It was mature, right? And when you have that, and of course you keep evolving that, you make it better. And that's what we've done together. We've put a finer point and more precision around the strategy and what we learn and put that back into the strategy for sure.
From our learnings.
From your learnings.
Right.
From your experience.
Yep.
From your wins and from your losses. But
Yep.
it's never a net loss for HFB because you take learning and then you immediately incorporate it in and then you build upon it.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. I walked into this place and I'm like, wow, I don't know that I've ever worked with an organization that is so strong in the foundation of success, okay? And then what that allowed you and me and your executive leadership team and members of the organization to do is then focus on people, right? So you never stop the learning part. You never stop performing and looking at the metrics and looking at the data, which you all have been excellent at. And then it allows you to look at people and say, how am I optimizing people? Because at the end of the day, when you have such a strong foundation, you can then focus on people driving performance. And when you walk in this building, which is beautiful, there is an energy here there is a culture here that is a performance-driven culture, right? And so you built that culture around the foundation, and that's what I think our focus has been, and we've taken it to another level.
I want to talk about how you've helped us take it to another level, but I think you're totally spot on, right? Number one is, where are we headed?
Yeah.
Right? What is our vision? Where are we headed? Who do we want to be, not only today, but in 5 or 10 years? And I think most people don't want to spend a whole lot of time there thinking about that, and that's probably the number one mistake that they make.
Yeah.
And then when you mentioned, this beautiful new office, it's now, are we acting as if we are?
Yes.
Right? So vision, where are we headed? What do we want to be? Who do we want to be? Where are we headed? What do we be known for? What do we want to contribute? All those important ingredients in producing an amazing vision that everybody
That's right.
can say, I see it and I want to go with you.
Yep.
And when I say I want to go with you, now you're talking about the people that are now helping the organization get to that place.
That's right.
Where the vision has now become a reality. So let's now, right? That's
it's
one,
spot on.
That's 1 and 2.
Yep.
So now let's talk about how you've helped us develop those people, because that's really where you have really supported me and coached me and mentored me on building this team here.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's there is a palpable momentum at this place, right? We are in dozens of states. You've got hundreds of employees. We've got dozens of open schools that are from the franchise world. The impact is just, it's palpable. The energy is palpable. And the way that we're focusing on the people side is a few different areas. Number one, we can't scale you, Richie Huffman, but we can scale your mindset. We can scale your learning. We can scale your vision. Right? And so that's what we really focus on. So it's almost like concentric circles, like when you drop the pebble in the pond and then you see the waves. That first pebble, right, is your mindset, your vision, your energy, your learning. And then the ripples occur in these concentric circles. And so you've got the members of your executive leadership team. And so it's making sure that that first concentric circle is fully connected to your vision, fully connected to accountability in a good way, in a learning way, in a performance way, right? Making sure that they have the ability to then manage and lead their teams. That's the first people focus. So right?
let me pause there for a second, because I want to make sure that there's huge value for those that are listening to us. Why do, in all of your experience, what percentage of companies can even get through the first ripple, or create the first ripple, I should say?
Yeah, to the degree that HFB has been able to do that, it's a small percentage that actually are able to scale the mindset of the chief executive. Okay, in the way that you have done that, the way that you have, there's a phrase, game recognizes game, right? And what I mean to say is, you have a lot of talented people in this organization, and they're only going to affix themselves to something that's going to be winning. And so when I look at not just the executive leadership team concentric circle, but the circles beyond that, the layers beyond that, there is incredibly talented people here. They are only going to join something that's going to make them better, that's going to be a winning organization. It's something in our human DNA that we want to be a part of something great and something bigger than ourselves. That's what HFB symbolizes, because whether I'm in Calladay, whether I'm in Celebrity Corporate Schools, whether I'm a franchisee, whether I'm in Huffman Family Foundation, whether I'm in the Celebrity Property Investments, there's pathways for me. This is a place where I can grow. And I think that is, I'm sort of jumping to some of the further out concentric circles, but that is power. That is, we are playing a talent game right now in today's workplace where you have to attract and retain and develop great people. And you've built that by virtue of creating opportunity, right? And you've done that, let me go back to my original point, by connecting people to your vision, your mindset, your culture of learning, right? And the culture of performance. Because one of the things that you do better than any other CEO is you ask good questions. And sometimes they're the hard questions, right? It is the why. It's the root cause. It's the what if, right? And when you look at the high-performing organizations, whether it be Fortune 5000 or small to mid-market, there's a culture of curiosity that way, right? It's a culture of performance by asking good questions, right? And that is one of your greatest elements of your arsenal specifically, is the ability to think critically and then ask the right question. You've poured that into all of those concentric circles around you.
Do you think most CEOs or founders? I'm back to the first ripple.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why does that even happen? Because do you think that most CEOs or founders chokehold that a little bit, not giving people the opportunity? Because you said something along the lines of giving others the opportunity. And you didn't use the word shine, but used a few other words that were related to that. Like giving them, listen, if you paint this vision, and I think that most CEOs or founders don't even paint a vision because they don't want anybody to, I don't know if the word's prosper, but it's all about them, right? It's like, if I'm not the one with all the answers, and if I'm not the one that's calling all the shots, then my ego is damaged. Right? Versus, so the first ripple really never occurs because, as you said, winners want to play and work for winners.
That's
right? And they want to accomplish big things. Right? People that don't want that are the ones that will just not make decisions. Tell me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And that founder and that owner, that's exactly what they want.
That's right.
Right? So that's almost like the first. That's like the first hurdle. Right? The first
question.
hurdle is if you're going to paint the vision and you're going to paint the mission and values, then you have to build a team and give them the authority to help you go there.
That's right.
And make them responsible for getting you there, because no one founder can get the entire organization to a big place.
It has yet to happen.
Right?
It has
to a
yet
big
to happen.
place.
You can't do it.
So they stay small.
Yeah.
And they chokehold the business for their own, I believe, for their own ego and selfish reasons.
Ego is the enemy when it comes to what you're describing, right? And there's a lot. The research is well documented, and even the neuroscience and the psychology is well documented, that when you've got founder-led companies, the biggest kryptonite or Achilles heel
Is the founder?
Is the founder holding on too tight.
Yep.
Right? You can't scale if you're holding on too tight, right? And here we are now, we're talking with the Huffman family brands. You wouldn't be to this stage if you were holding on too tight. Couldn't do it.
Right.
Couldn't do it. And you've said to me, even recently, you continue to own that. And you're like, I don't want to be a choke point.
Right.
I want to be creating the most value. You say this all the time to me.
Right.
I want to create the most value. What can I be doing to create the most value of this organization? Because we are very different now than we were 5 years ago, than we were 15 years ago, and certainly 29 years ago. Right?
Yeah, and I would say to my search of finding what value I bring to the organization, I'm also asking of my inner circle of what value are they bringing, so they feel
100%.
Like they're contributing and they feel important, and they're making a contribution and they're making an impact towards this vision.
Well, you said this recently. You came up with this trust equation, right? And it's for members of the executive leadership team, which is and trust is very important to you, right? Trust drives everything, right? For the Huffman family brands. And so what are the elements of that trust, right? And so in no particular order, right? The first part of that trust equation that you described, and you'll tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but you created this. First thing is decision making with people and with process.
Can you
right?
build a team?
Can you build a team?
Yep.
Right? And can you develop and follow a process?
Yep.
Number one. That helps build trust, right? And that allows you, to your earlier point, as the founder CEO, to let go.
Yep.
When that trust. So that's point one. Point two is accountability. Right? And again, for a lot of people within this organization have heard me say that accountability is a caring word. It is not a punishment word. It is not a micromanagement word. It is, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't hold you accountable.
Right.
So can you be accountable to yourself? Can you be accountable for your team's results, for your team's learning, and for developing and retaining your best people?
Which gets us closer to the vision.
Which gets us closer to the vision, which that's point 2 of the trust equation. So if you've got those two things, Richie, as our founding CEO and chairman, is going to be able to be like, okay, you got it. You say that word all the time. You got it.
Right.
Third part, and this is like the emotional part, which is, do you believe our purpose? Do you bleed our vision? Do you really understand how we live into our values and keeping the promise for our
Do you want to be a part of it?
You want to be a part of it.
Right.
So when those three things are present, that trust exists, which you've articulated very clearly. And then here's the beautiful part. As you go beyond that first concentric circle, your inner circle takes that to our next level.
Yeah.
And then that's the vibrant culture that you've got.
Now, how do we get that down through the entire organization, right?
Exactly.
I just want to say again, I think what we've discovered here lately and what you just said is gold.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's gold because we're all looking for trust.
That's right.
Trusting the people that are part of our team with those three elements.
That's right.
I think that could be a book.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There could be so much content around that.
I think the HFB trust equation is incredibly valuable, and it's not just specific to our brands.
Yeah.
Right. And the beautiful thing is, our franchisees can take this into their organization. There's such applicability here. But I think this is also a good point, Richie, which is success leaves clues. You've said this before. I say it often. It leaves clues. And so when we're talking about making sure that it gets cascades into the rest of the organization, it's being able to show those behaviors, those habits that we can build that can consistently perform, consistently learn, which builds trust. And I think that's what's so powerful about what we have here and what you have built at HFB is that we've got people in this organization that are far-reaching across dozens of states now that can think the same way, right? They have the shared habits all coming from the foundation where we can consistently perform, right? Because 29, 30 years into this now, that's what you're looking for. That trust so we can consistently perform, right?
Yep.
And I think that's where this mission and your purpose pervades all else.
Yeah. I would add one addition to what we just said as far as the people, right? We're looking for trust, right? Trust. Once I trust you, I can let you go run and help us get to the vision. People, can you build the right team? Are you holding people accountable to our process procedures? And then is your team focused and committed and excited about the vision and the mission and where we're headed? The last thing I would add to that, and this is where you end all of that, and this is what you've taught me, is having a little grace and a little patience. Of allowing those folks, those team members, your inner circle, to have a little extra time to get there.
Right.
Because, somebody told me, like my wife tells me this all the time, like, I'll say, what do you think about this? And she's like, I don't know. And I'll be like, what do you mean you don't know?
Yeah, right.
And I realize that I've been thinking about this for weeks.
Right.
And now I bring it to her and I expect her to give me a decision or an answer immediately. And that was so unfair. And I think you taught me that, as being a CEO and the chairman here at HFB, is like sometimes it just takes a little bit of grace and a little bit of time. Doesn't mean that you give up on it's not that it means you're lowering your standards or that you're not headed towards your goals or your vision. It just may require a little bit of more time.
Perfectly said. And I think that speaks back to your willingness you've had to grow as a CEO. You can't be the same CEO that you were 20 years ago.
I've never done this before.
Right?
Right.
And oh, by the way, as we continue to explode in growth, you're going to be a different CEO 3 years from now.
Going to have to be.
Right? You're going to have to be.
Yeah.
And so therein lies the ultimate factor in effective CEO, in the effective high-performing CEO. It's the willingness to be self-aware, learn, and grow, right? Because that is then modeled for everybody else. If you weren't doing that, that puts a damper on not only our ability to attract and retain talent, but continue to grow to the heights that we want to grow.
Got it.
So for me, I'm grateful that you brought that point up, because I think that's the ace. That's the ace.
So what would you? We never really got to what Steer LLC actually does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've been dancing around the periphery.
But I think people are starting to get maybe some clues
Yeah.
on what we do, because what I wanted to do, Chris, is actually talk about more of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Like we touched a little bit on, why most businesses never grow, and really that's why you were brought here. You were originally brought in to help us with some strategic planning, right? Growth. Then I said, wow, this guy is the real deal. I want him to work with and coach my executive team. Growth.
Yep.
And then, lastly, I hope it's not lastly, but a part of that was also working directly with the Huffman family. With the members of the Huffman family and their playbooks and our family vision, our family mission, which is another growth opportunity.
No question.
So in all your experience, like what let's go back to like what hint, because I want this to be so much value for those that are listening, whether or not they currently have a business and they're looking to grow, they feel like they're stuck in growth. What are some of the things that you have clearly seen with your experience that prohibits organizations, large, medium, or small, in growing?
Yep. I would put it in two buckets. The first bucket is leadership and management. Okay? What perennially holds organizations back from reaching their objectives, growing, attracting talent, is ineffective leadership and managers that are not management that's not optimized. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then the other side is organizationally, it's, do they have the foundations, right? That mission, the vision, the values that are dynamic and living, not just up on a wall somewhere, but like the Huffman family brands thinks about vision and mission and metrics and things like that. Do they have a culture that creates this? It's like the athletic analogy, Richie, that people want to win.
Yep.
They want to be a part of something big. That's culturally. And then player engagement. I'm using the athletic analogy here again. In an individual capacity, do I know what my role is? Do I know how my role moves the needle for the Huffman family brand's vision? Am I clear on expectations, how I can win, how I can grow? It's the leadership and management that holds people back, or it's the organizational principles that are lacking. And so what we do at Steer LLC is we work very closely on the leadership and manager development piece of this, because we have an entire process and research and rubric around, because again, success leaves clues. Whether it's neuroscience, whether it's studying organizations for 30 years, our own 30 years of empirical data, we work to develop great leaders and managers. But then we also focus on the strategic planning to ensure that we have a culture where people are engaged, right? And then that individual person feels like they are a part of something bigger than themselves. And that can be even things that maybe operationally need to be optimized. So that's the work that we do. But to answer your question more completely, it's one of two buckets, my friend.
Yep.
It's either they are holding themselves back from an organizational structure, and they don't see it, or it starts with great leadership. It's leadership and managers.
Right. I think, and listen, there's so much value in what you just said, and so much opportunity for these entrepreneurs to follow through what we just said, right? Because I think they think I don't really want to grow that much, or my vision, I don't even know where to start with a vision, or I don't need a vision. Yeah. And as you were talking, it's like it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because not only from an attraction but a retention of employees, right? Here's normally the way people operate. No business can operate without great people. So how do you attract them and retain them? Through the vision. 100%. Most of the time, most of the time in an interview process, they talk about more about what are you going to bring to the table? Maybe. Normally it's about qualification. Are you qualified?
Right.
Most positions don't even need a qualification, right? So it comes really down, I guess, to do I like you? Do I think you'll represent the company well? But with inside there, you're missing the point of sharing your vision and your mission with them in order to inspire them to want to come work for you and be a part of it and bring all of their unique talents that you're looking for to that vision and ask them what value, what unique talent are you going to bring to help us get closer to the vision.
That's a masterclass. That's a masterclass in two things. It's a masterclass in attracting, retaining, developing great people.
Yeah.
But it's also a masterclass in don't miss the opportunity at the interview stage.
Totally.
To be like, tell me what you think about this vision. How do you plug into this vision? How can you make this vision better?
Right.
How can you help us achieve it?
Right.
And that's a masterclass.
And you don't even need to get to stage 3 if you don't want to in the strategy. If you just implement the two things that we just talked about, your business has just wildly changed.
No question. And I think that's true not only of a hyper-growth company like the Huffman Family Brands, whether that's a Fortune 1000 company or a well-capitalized startup. Some of these fundamentals are true throughout.
Totally.
Throughout. They're almost non-negotiable, right? And that's another thing I would want to point out for this podcast. Going back to your intellectual humility, right? You're constantly focusing on your own self-awareness, right? And your own learning and development. You've got a Huffman Family Advisory Board. You've got a franchise advisory board. You're a part of other chief executive and entrepreneurial groups that are just filled with smart people that'll hold you accountable. Like this is blueprint work for the CEO to make sure that you are focusing on the things that only you can do.
And I wouldn't be a part of any of those organizations if we didn't have a very clear vision and plan towards where we're headed.
That's right.
I need those organizations to help me get there. I didn't just pick those organizations out of a hat. Or didn't. They were very intentional on what I feel I need as the chairman and of HFB in order to get there.
No question about it.
So,
and there's your second book, right? You could write a first book on the trust equation. Your second book though is on it's the masterclass on why vision, purpose, mission matters in a high-performing organization, right? Because you did it, right? And you're doing it. That continues. But it is incredible to me, the hubris and arrogance of CEOs that don't see that.
Yeah.
And that is, it is an indicator of poor health.
Poor health. What do you mean?
Well, it's like it's
in a business.
Yeah, in a business, it's look. What is an organization, right? It's human beings. It's a human organism. It's a human dynamic, and if you're lacking that heartbeat, that's a health indicator.
I've sat in a lot of CEO roundtables, and majority of CEOs or entrepreneurs, business owners. They operate their companies. The reason they don't do that because they're operating their company as an employee, right? They're just, I play a role, I make really good money, and that's about as far as it goes. So they don't really feel any or see any value in doing this work because it's what we're talking about, Chris. Takes work.
Oh yeah.
But I can't tell you how exciting the work is and how much value it brings to the company. And when I mean value, I mean an amazing place for folks to come and work and show off their unique talent.
Yeah.
And the enterprise value goes through the roof.
Through the roof.
Right? So it's not, I try to tell everyone this, it's not just about, what you're getting from the business. Yeah. It's about the business that you're actually creating.
Exactly.
And one day, somebody will want to pay you for that value that you've spent the last 30 years, 50 years creating.
That's right. And you have the scaling of your mindset extends into every role in the organization. You've even done we have monthly workshops that we do that stretch across wide swaths of the organization. It's like you continue to pour into people. We have pathways for every role. I mean, and that's where the power lies, right? That's where the vision cascades into, and the purpose. I mean, we grow people big and small is the home run purpose of all time.
Totally.
Right? It captures it.
Yep.
Because we keep the promise, we create value for the kids, for the families, franchisees, and for our team.
Right. The more I think about all that, that's really the main way that we keep the vision alive. Right?
No doubt.
Because inside of We Grow People Big and Small is growth.
Yeah.
We all prosper.
That's
The
right.
company prospers, the company grows, our executive team grows, our teachers, our children, our families, everybody grows inside of this brand.
No
And I
question
think
about
if you just took that mindset, like you want that for yourself, and you want that for your company, you want that for all of those that are a part of your brand, I think you will find your own unique way of how to do that. This is the way we have found it to be.
Well, what's interesting is that you found this way over the last 30 years. And here's what's fascinating. In that 30-year time, this is really cool. The data and the psychology and the neuroscience has caught up to what you've been doing. And it validates.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say it's already been there. It
it's
was always there.
We didn't have that data.
Oh, really?
Like when you started this journey 30 years ago, we didn't know how to capture culture data or what makes high-performing team. We didn't have the great capture for how we can build that. And or even what it meant to have that winning mindset or the growth mindset, which is a big one here at HFB. And so it's so fascinating that you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Now we've got hard data, hard science confirming the business model, the vision, right? How you believe culture should manifest. That's what's so neat.
Especially the timing of it, because this generation that we're in now that's 100% what they're looking for.
100%.
Right? How are you going to grow me? How am I going to prosper?
Yeah.
And what are you doing to give back to these
Exactly.
communities? And we're hitting on all
That's
those.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Because talk about impact.
Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned the fact that through the Huffman Family Foundation, I mean, the amount of lives that will be impacted favorably, of children's lives, that will be impacted by this foundation and its intention and its mission is just remarkable, right? That cannot be overstated, right? But going back to your other point, it's this generation seeks that. And oh, by the way, it's really how some of the most successful professional franchises, like sports franchises, work, right? Which is what you've been building over time here, which is the idea that, well, wait a minute, I guess I do need to understand that growth mindset, that learning mindset, that these components of high performance that maybe 30 years ago we didn't know, but you just sort of intuitively were building. And you see this in professional sports where there's a real focus on development and pathways and the overall human experience within their organizations. And it's why they can thrive, right? It's why the Ravens can thrive. It's why the Patriots have thrived. It's why, you look across the NBA, you look across some of the global sports. That's also true. And so I think it's really interesting that over 30 years of you building these brands, you've incorporated elements of that.
Yeah. I would say, and you said it earlier, I mean, one of my secrets is just surrounding myself with great people and including in that is finding great mentors that have accomplished what I'm seeking to accomplish. So that would be my one of my suggestions also, and those that are either current entrepreneurs looking to expand or looking to start a business, is find yourself a mentor that can help you with these process procedures, someone that you could share your thoughts and vision so they can help you articulate it and get it on paper and start implementing it. I mean, sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you feel like you're all by yourself. And so having a mentor can really be that validator, that cheerleader, that sounding board, all the above. And I was just reflecting on every Sunday, Chris sends me a video, and it's really this conversation. It's validation, it's encouragement, it's reminding me of the vision and why we're doing what we do. So I would highly recommend for those that are listening to seek out. And certain people call me and they're like, I know you're busy. There's never, I don't know one entrepreneur or one business owner that is too busy to help someone else. I think most entrepreneurs and coaches and people are so much. There's much more willing to help than people think they are.
That's right.
Don't Alan always says here, our family CFO, don't negotiate with yourself. Don't talk yourself out of doing what you think may help you or put you in a different direction. So I just want to thank you again. Those Sunday videos, they just get me refocused on and prep for the week and ready to go.
Well, I appreciate that, and I have a as you can tell from the energy that I bring to it, I love creating them.
I know you do,
because this goes back to the same thing. I want to be around and a part of
a winning team.
Winning teams.
Damn right.
Right? And I want to surround myself with people that are winning, because as you and I talk about, sit with the winners, the conversation's different.
Much different, right?
Sit with the winners, right? And so it's a blessing, man. Absolute blessing.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Richie.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Richie Huffman Celebrate and TikTok at Richie Huffman 01. We've got more great episodes lined up for you, so check back with us soon. Until then, remember, hard work works.